welcome to Hindustan Times. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are set to meet on Thursday on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. This will be their first face-to-face talk since ties between the two countries hit rock bottom early this year. To discuss what we should expect from the meeting and much more, Einar Tangen is joining me from Beijing. He is a founding partner of the Center for China and World at Macau City University. He is also a senior fellow Center for International Governance Innovation and chair of 15th Five-Year Group Asia Narratives. Mr. Tangen, always good to have you.
Thank you, Ananya. A pleasure to be here.
All right, Mr. Tangen, last time you and I spoke about US-China ties, you had said that Trump does not care who he hurts and is trying to negotiate from a pedestal. Do you think the table will be equal this Thursday in South Korea?
Well, not exactly equal. Donald Trump has come up against something that he can't control. And, in essence, if they're playing cards, China has tabled an ace and Donald Trump has a kangaroo straight. These minerals, rare earth elements, absolutely critical to almost everything that involves technology, especially the auto industry and the military industry, but a host of uses in between, anything in essence that uses a chip. This is a very, very strong card for Beijing. They have not been using it. They've been, in essence, using this as a means of slow playing Donald Trump because it's very difficult to trust him. I think they would probably agree, but not say what I said to you earlier about Donald Trump's disregard for anybody else other than himself.
And what kind of a mindset do you think both the leaders will have when they enter the room?
Well, there's a bit of trepidation on the Chinese side. They're very, very concerned. They do not want a situation where Donald Trump tries to embarrass Xi Jinping or go off script. So there's been a lot of negotiations back and forth, and some of it has been on this issue. Remember, there are 5 meetings, including the last one in Malaysia, to set this meeting up. I think they've set very firm guardrails for Trump, but he is unpredictable, as Kevin Rudd, former Prime Minister of Australia, found out sitting across from him late last week.
Also, the Associated Press has described this meeting in a very interesting way. I just want to quickly quote it. At stake is nothing less than the future of the global economy. A misstep could send shockwaves. You think the entire world needs to pause and watch this summit very closely?
No, this is not going to be a watershed moment. Quite frankly, China has clarified its position. It's not cutting off the world. What it's doing is it is simply not going to allow a hostile country, the United States, to use its materials to manufacture weapons to threaten and possibly kill Chinese people. Doesn't make sense. I think any other country would do the same thing. This is not the same as the US saying we want to contain China by preventing it from getting high-end chips or getting chip-making equipment. This is China saying, look, this is a real security interest. You cannot make missiles and bombs and tanks without these rare earths, and we are not interested in arming you so you can hurt our people.
Do you think this message will be received well by Mr. Trump?
He's already received the message, and what is clear, what they're trying to negotiate right now are points. When we're talking, what you should keep in mind is slow play. The last 11 months of Donald Trump have been 11 years in an ordinary media existence. It's like living like a dog. Every year is 7. He has made every day exciting, a little bit too exciting, unfortunately, more and more unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. He's now known as Taco because he always chickens out at the last moment. Remember, he said 100% tariffs, and he says, well, I guess I can't do that. He said, I'm going to cut off trade with China. I guess I can't do that. I mean, he's had numerous reversals simply because he likes to shock and awe and see what falls out. If there's any sign of weakness, he goes in for the kill. If not, he just retrenches. He's not ideological. He's simply always trying to do some sort of I'm better at business deal than you kind of attitude. In terms of the world, they don't need to be as concerned if you're making automobiles or even dual use items. Items that can be used both for military and civilian use. My guess is that there will be a means of licensing amount of product necessary to do that. But if you're building missiles, as I said before, they're not interested in that. So the majority of the world is not big in the arms making business, so it won't really affect them. But it is clear now to the rest of the world that Donald Trump does not hold all the cards, as he said to Zelensky, famously when he was in the White House, Oval Office. He doesn't hold all the cards, and he now has to seriously negotiate. But it'll be item by item. They'll be talking about, let's try this out for a year. That's good for China's perspective because, that means that Donald Trump can't really do anything for a year, but they're engaging the U.S. This TikTok deal that Donald Trump wants, they're obviously going to discuss that, but they're going to be trade-offs. I'll do this, you do that, and that's, I think, China's long-term goal. Don't be surprised if you hear something about a phase two where China agrees to buy more soybeans or energy or whatever from the United
We're already
States.
hearing that. Hmm.
Well, yes, and you'll note just before he came to started on his trip, Donald Trump said, "Well, I'm going to have an investigation of phase one in 2020." Really? Oh my goodness! I mean, that's quite something. So I think that was an open hint that he intends to ask for a phase two, and this is the victory he wants to take back to the United States. Look, you guys, your soybean farmers are going out of business. I got the Chinese to start buying soybeans, so you should be happy with me instead of being sorry because you're going bankrupt. So he's looking for a win. He doesn't have the card, so he's going to try to manufacture one. And China's not opposed to it. I mean, they have 3 more years of this guy. They want to keep it on a low boil as opposed to an intensive situation.
Mr. Tangen, we have already heard US Secretary of Treasury say that he's feeling very good about a deal, and the Chinese Vice Premier also said that the concerns on both sides are being addressed as we speak. Logistically speaking, do you think a deal has already been agreed on and Trump and Xi are just going to make it official this Thursday?
Well, I no, and the reason I say that is because at this point, Trump is so mercurial, and there is absolutely nobody telling him what to do. Scott Bessent, who has his own foibles, he's the closest thing to an advisor or an adult in the room. But remember, this is the guy who, along with Soros, engineered the Asian financial crisis and pocketed $500 million along the way. He's not somebody with a conscience or anything like that. This is simply an opportunity. I don't know if it's ego or money driven, but he seems to want to be close to Trump, although he was, Trump has already said that George Soros should be arrested. I mean, I don't even know how you, get how you have the same person who advised Soros, who you don't like, being your advisor on such important matters. But Besson is just he's treading water. He's saying whatever is necessary. If you go back and look at so many pronouncements he's made, they were plain lies. He knows they're lies, or he tries to, tell small fibs or, make big things into small things, that type of thing. He's not exactly a very trustworthy person, is what I'm trying to say. So taking him as the lead negotiator for the U.S. does not put the U.S. in a strong position. Everybody understands what he's about, and he doesn't carry the kind of credibility. It's just at the point when you have an education secretary that thinks AI is A1, he shines by comparison. You put him next to Pete Hegseth, he looks like an absolute brilliant guy. So this is the sorry state of Trump's administration, where he has, I believe, 7 beauty pageant winners. Not that I'm opposed to beautiful ladies, but the idea that you're elevating them for their looks as opposed to their abilities and experience, that's demeaning.
You've really deep dived into what's going on in Washington and the kind of mentality President Trump is going to enter the room with. If we could look Beijing a little more closely now, you have already said that Xi Jinping has the ace. He's clearly winning. What is China trying to take out from this meeting?
Okay, this is only one ace that he has. This is rare earth elements. There are many others. If you talk about pharmaceuticals, China, over the years, its business model has been develop economies of scale businesses with very low margins. So they're willing to take 3 to 5%, but produce a tremendous amount, basically being the biggest player in the market. Vitamin C, when I came here 20 years ago, more than 25 years ago, they told me 98% of vitamin C was made in China. I'm sure that hasn't changed. And when you start talking about pharmaceutical chemicals, etc., China leads the world. Then you get into these metals, neodymium, and all of these things that are absolutely necessary. There are about 17 of them. If you're not buying them from China, you're going to buy them from Russia. In fact, last year, the United States increased its trade with Russia, despite telling everyone else to stop trading with Russia, by 28% because it needed yellow cake, uranium, and it needed these metals in addition to some fertilizer. So right now, this idea that they're going to separate isn't going. In terms of how China perceives this, they understand the complexity. They're just trying to survive the next 3 years with Donald Trump. So as I said, this is about slow playing, giving Donald Trump enough of a win so he can go back and start bothering somebody else about some other issue other than China.
Are you saying that the US tariffs absolutely have no bearing on what China does or doesn't?
Increasingly smaller. They're going to negotiate for smaller tariffs. Obviously, that is part of the deal. You have TikTok in the mix, as well as taking certain companies off the blacklist, investments. There's a whole litany of things. The question is, what is Donald Trump willing to trade for what China is willing to give? And that's the negotiation. And so when you go back to, well, do we know what's going to happen? Well, there's a script. The question is Donald Trump going to follow it?
Do you think Xi Jinping would have any non negotiable elements in his deal?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think he's willing to give rare earth elements for building bombs and things like that. He's not willing to do anything about Taiwan or say that he's going to do that, and that's not even on the table. Other areas he's not going to be interested in more sanctions coming out of Washington, and there might be something, well, if you stay within these parameters, we can keep dealing. If you go outside them, we're going to start playing other cards, which you have no answer to.
You said Taiwan won't even be on the table. Is it because China won't let it or US is not interested?
Donald Trump has been signaling steadily for the last, 2 months, as he's been asking for a meeting and realized he's in a weaker position. He's been downplaying Taiwan. He said he doesn't think that China would invade Taiwan, which is counter to his own military and Defense Department white papers. He's also said, well, we don't need to make this a big issue. Obviously, this is in deference to China. I'm sure the Taiwanese are not too impressed or too happy about it, and they made it clear they depend on the U.S. Umbrella for the protection of the current government. But they're also looking at a slide, because right now, what do you have? You have the KMT now headed by a woman who says every person in Taiwan is Chinese. And they're that inseparable. And she's in favor of better relations with Beijing.
Mr. Tangen, we know that China shares a no limits partnership with Russia. Do you think Trump might use this meeting with Xi to relay a message to Putin, since talks have stalled between Washington and Moscow?
No, I don't think that Xi Jinping is an errand boy between Putin and Trump. Trump likes Putin. It's just that Putin has been playing him all along. He knows Trump has a man crush on him, And for whatever reason, Trump goes along with it. Remember, he said he's flip flopping around about how he's going to send Tomahawk missiles, which are nuclear capable, to Ukraine, and then all of a sudden he's not going to do it after he talked to Putin. Then he says, "Well, I'm not going to go visit him." And it's why, because Putin said, "Look, I'm not freezing the borders." What happened is they had set up a meeting. And all of a sudden, at the last moment, as is Trump's usual things, he has a brainwave and he says, "Oh, I'm going to propose that you freeze your borders." Well, that was not on the original agenda, and that's what scuttled the meeting. And this is also what is concerning China. You never know exactly what Trump's going to do. He likes these madman tactics. He thinks they're very cute and very effective. In fact, the rest of the world thinks they're childish.
All right, Mr. Tangen, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for taking out the time for Hindustan Times.
Anytime. All the best.